Students, welcome to Devika's Commerce and Management Academy. Today we'll discuss about how to accumulate the capital. Very important topic in industry finance. For every organization, you know that finance is very much important. Finance are capital. So how do we accumulate it? So that we will see. In the previous class or somewhat you got an idea about what is finance and the different topics we have covered. Now you know that whenever we wanted to accumulate capital, there are different ways. Before 1956, most of the companies used to issue three types of shares. One is preference shares, ordinary shares and deferred shares. Preference, ordinary, deferred shares. This was before 1956. Now after Companies Act 1956 has formed, after that the Companies Act said only two types of shares can be issued, that is preference shares and equity shares. Now anyway, not only issue of shares, there are many ways where we can focus, where we can accumulate our capital. So those methods are here. So the first one is that issue of preference and equity shares. Are you getting it? First of all, methods of raising finance, how we can raise the finance. 10 methods are there, total 10 methods. So first one is that we can issue the two types of shares, preference shares, equity shares. Clear? Then we can issue even the debentures also. Debentures we can issue, and retained earnings, through the retained earnings we can get some capital, and also underwritings. We will discuss anyway about all these topics in coming classes in depth, but it will be very much useful for you to gain the knowledge about the companies, how do they accumulate capital, how do they handle it, all these things you will come to know. Okay. Now third one is that retained earnings, and also underwriting and intercompany investment, venture capital, angel investors, lease financing, hire purchasing, franchising. So total 10 methods we are having. So any of this method we can use it for accumulating the capital to get the finance. Any method we can follow, but most of the public companies are following this issue of preference shares and debentures. Of course, retained earnings and underwritings. These first four methods, most of the public companies are using it. So anyway, now we'll see today only issue of preference shares. Shares are different types. Okay, issue of shares are preference shares and equity shares. Two shares are there. Now we'll see today only the preference shares only. Let me give you a small introduction about what is preference shares, what is equity shares. The companies are issuing these two types of shares as per the convenience of the shareholders. Suppose one shareholder is interested in safety of his shares, then the company may issue preference shares to that shareholder. And another shareholder, he is ready to take the risk. But he is expecting more returns. Then for him, equity shares company can issue. Like two types of shares company can issue. And remember this, but it depends on the requirement of the company, and as per the interest of the shareholders, the company is going to issue it. And now let us see only on the preference shares, because it's a lengthy topic. I cannot take preference shares and equity shares in one class. It will take lengthy and you may not concentrate. So I am dividing into two parts. One is preference shares. So we'll focus today preference shares. What is preference shares? As the name is suggesting that preference will be given to those shareholders in two ways. First thing is that whenever company gets a profit, out of the profit, first dividend or interest will be given to these preference shareholders only. So this is the first benefit. Preference will be given to these people, any kind of interest. And second thing is that whenever company wanted to wind up, company wanted to disclose, company wanted to wind up, or whenever it comes to the closing stage, winding up stage, so at that stage also these preference shareholders will be given preference to get back the investment. Investment preference is given. and profits also, they'll be getting the interest first preference. These two benefits are there for the preference shareholders. And remember one thing, so for preference shareholders, one important thing is that they need to be very careful while choosing this preference shares, because most of the companies are well established. In established organization, getting preference shares is always advisable rather than developing or underdeveloped companies, because preference shares is always some stable amount they are going to get. Preference will be given to them and they are going to get the stable amount. Like I have purchased preference shares of 5 lakh. On 5 lakh every month I will be getting interest. Safety is there, no? So that is why you need to be very careful which company, in which company you are purchasing it. And remember one thing, preference shareholders are just providing the finance to the company. They are providing just finance. They are not shareholders. They are not real shareholders. Who are the real shareholders? Equity shareholders. So these people will be given only simply interest on their investment. They don't have any voting rights, just like equity shareholders. No voting right, they won't participate in the activities of the organization, they are not related to the organization, but every year they'll be getting interest as a preference. Okay, now we'll see today types of preference shares. Total 8 types of preference shares are there. 8 types of preference shares. So which preference shares you want? You can decide if you have an idea. Are you getting it? And which company is issuing what kind of preference shares, that also you must know. Suppose sometimes companies may be issuing first 4 only, or otherwise middle 4 or 8 and 2, like what they are issuing, and if you have knowledge according to that you can choose it. Now well, let us see each and every type of preference shares. First one is that cumulative preference shares. Cumulative preference shares means whenever a company is not getting profits, suppose this is 2021. 2020, last year we did not get profits. This year we got profit, but last year profit also these preference shareholders are going to get. That is why we say cumulative preference shares. Cumulative means from the last 2 years, 5 years, whatever may be the years, whenever they did not get interest due to losses, due to no profit. So all those years cumulatively they are going to get interest. That is why we say it as a cumulative preference shares. Second one is non-cumulative, opposite to that. Non-cumulative means they don't get any cumulative amount. Like last year we did not get profit. This year we got profit. This year we got profit, will give you the interest. But don't ask about previous years. Previous years, no cumulative, non-cumulative we are saying. There is no cumulative interest. So this is non-cumulative preference shares. Next one is that redeemable preference shares. Redeemable preference shares means after certain period, these preference shares can be returned back to the shareholders. So generally this redeemable preference shares will be for a particular period, maybe 1 year or 2 years, a certain period they will be issuing this redeemable preference shares. After that period they are going to return back. Don't want. Generally suppose we need some working capital present. For that period we are issuing it. Then after that we don't want, so we are going to return it back. That is why we say it as a redeemable preference shares. Next one is that irredeemable. Irredeemable, not possible to redeem this preference shares. Means there is no particular period until the company wind up, until the last date of working day of company. Okay, so till that period these preference shares will be in the organization only. They don't redeem, they don't repay back during the working time of the company. So for the past 10 years we have been working and we are going to continue. So in such cases irredeemable preference shareholders are not going to get back the amount invested. Interest they'll get, but amount they are not going to get. That is irredeemable preference shares. Next one is that participating preference shares. Participating preference shares, suppose say a company got a profit, entire profit is distributed like paid interest to the shareholders and dividend to the debenture holders, everything is distributed. Still they are having huge profits, and these participating shareholders are going to get once again on the surplus, whatever is left in the organization, and that they are going to get. So that is why we say participating preference shareholders. Once again, they get the profit, whatever surplus is left, that surplus also they are going to get participating. Next one, non-participating. Non-participating, no. Once these people got interest, that's it. Surplus and surplus amount, they don't have any right. So that is non-participating preference shares. And next one is that convertible preference shares. Convertible preference shares means once if these shares are issued, so these people are having the chance, to convert these preference shares into equity shares. Are you getting it? So preference shares they can convert into equity shares, possibility is there. Why do they want to convert into equity shares? Where company is very good, no doubt at all. So equity shareholders, whenever company is getting more profits, equity shareholders are going to get the benefit compared to the preference shareholders. So these shares like convertible preference shares, they are only having the chance to convert that shares into equity shares. Are you getting it? And non-convertible, not possible. You can't convert your preference shares into equity shares. So this is non-convertible. Total 8 types of shares are there. Okay, 8 types of preference shares. Okay. Next, now you got an understanding what is preference shares. They'll be given mainly the advantage like 2 things. One is whenever company gets the profits, these people will be paid first profits in the form of interest, and whenever company is winding up, so these people are going to get back their investment first, then later preference will be given to the others. That's about preference shareholders. And the preference shareholders are not going to have any kind of right to vote, they don't participate, simply they get the interest on the investment what they have put in the company. Now if you see the advantages, simple 5 advantages are there. What are those? Guaranteed return. If I purchase preference shares in so and so company, return is guaranteed. There is no doubt about my investment. My investment is going to get back. Whenever company is going to wind up, at that stage also preference will be given to these people only. That is why, so return is always pakka, sure. You are going to get back your return. And also interest also. Second thing is long-term fund. It is a long-term fund unless it is redeemable, where it is, unless it is redeemable, the rest of everything is non-redeemable. Until it means it will be in the organization for long period. So long-term fund it is. It's a benefit for the organization. They need not to think about anything, no second thought. Once if you get the preference shares means it's a long term, we can use it comfortably. And no management control. Means preference shareholders, they are not going to interfere in the management activities. They don't have rights, they don't have anything to participate in the management activities, organization activities. No, they don't have anything. So simply they have to invest and they are waiting for the interest only. They don't have nothing to do with the organizational activities. So no management control. Management is going to take care of their activities. Next one, repayment is possible. Repayment is possible when if it is redeemable. Only in case of redeemable preference shares, payment is possible, repayment. Why this is advantage? You know, suppose we have invited redeemable shares, preference shares of 1 crore for working capital purpose. Working capital means temporary. We have used it. Don't want 1 crore, just repay it. Redeem it because it is redeemable preference shares. So repayment is possible. Means you are not going to keep the amount capital in the organization because we don't want that usage. Usage is over. So that is why repayment is possible, means you are utilizing the funds properly. Next one, no security required, especially for preference shares. There is no need of any security. No security is required. In like debentures, when we issue the debentures, we discussed already in the previous classes. When we issue the debentures, we need definitely security. We have to show some assets, fixed assets as security, then only it is possible. But here it is not required. No security is required. Simply you can just issue it. So these are the simple advantages. Next, disadvantages. Simple three disadvantages. One is permanent burden. Unless it is redeemable preference shares, all the shares, it will be in the organization only. We cannot repay it back. So that is why we are saying permanent burden. When we don't want capital, still we have to bear these preference shares with us. We have to pay the interest also. So that is, in such cases, it's a permanent burden. Next one is that not favorable to investors. Not favorable to investments means investors generally, whenever they put their investments, it will be permanent, it will be in the organization. They can't get back the amount. It is permanently blocked amount. So that is why it is not favorable to the investors. There is another way also we can think, like they are going to get interest only. When company is getting huge profits, these people will get normal interest, not anything else. They are not going to get much amount. So that is why it is not favorable to investors. Next one, cost of raising funds higher. Raising this preference shares is very high compared to the equity shares. So that cost is a burden for the organization. That's all. So these are the simple disadvantages. You can take a screenshot or write down. Hope the class is clear. Very important topic. In general also, whenever you'll enter into any company as an employee or employer, but you must have this kind of knowledge. What is this preference shares? What is the meaning of that? What kind of advantages are the disadvantages? And also types of preference shares. And in the coming class, we'll see equity shares. Anyway, let me give you a recap. We have today discussed about the preference shares. Preference shares are one of the important source of any company's finance. Two advantages as we have discussed. Then after that we have discussed about types of preference shares. Then advantages 5 and disadvantages. Now sources of getting the finance. First one, issue of preference shares is over. In the next class we'll see equity shares. It is also one of the important aspect. Stay connected. By the way, there are many subjects already covered in our channel. Check out the playlist and don't forget to share these videos. Stay connected. Good luck.